Um, Today I am going to tell you the story of how 6 heroes from World War II told me to buy a salad. This was a time I was on Broadway. I was going to the Broadway QFC to pick up my meds. And what you have to understand is that Broadway always makes me just a little nervous. I had just walked past a woman, a yellow-haired woman with a cardboard sign, and she had called out to me in kind of a throaty voice, and I did not want to talk to her. The way she was dressed, the way she was talking, it made me nervous. It made my skin kind of crawl, but I was going into a literal grocery store. It would be stupidly easy for me to buy her some food. So I stopped, I turned around, I asked her what she wanted. What she wanted was a Caesar salad and a Dr. Pepper. And that is a combination that I have never forgotten ever since. So I went into the grocery store and I was feeling pretty glum. I was also feeling resentful, and I was feeling resentful of my own resentment because it really wasn't that big of an ask. And even if it had been a bigger ask, I did want help. But this is how it always is, or almost always is, when I buy food for people on the streets. I get all worked up about whether I should be spending money on this. And I have to push myself to do the right thing. Once upon a time, I would have walked right by that woman. But when I was 18, those 6 heroes of World War II I mentioned pushed me in a particular direction. Now, one of the things you have to understand is that I was and am eternally obsessed with people who did the right thing during the Holocaust. I have wondered over and over what gave them the guts to stand up to those atrocities. They must have cultivated something within themselves to give them that kind of courage and compassion. And at 18, I wanted to know more. My high school gave seniors the chance to do an independent project in the last 3 weeks of their year. And I took them up on that opportunity and decided that I would study the letters, the memoirs, and the interviews of people who rescued Jews from the Nazis without violence. Because I was and am a theater geek, I also decided that I would do a solo show incorporating the precise words that I had studied, of the words of those hero characters. So I knew that as in solo shows, I would have to design it so all the heroes who I was portraying would have to sit and stand and walk and talk, each differently than the other. And because I had no access to the real heroes, they were either dead or on other continents, I had to use my imagination. I had to experiment and sort of try and crack the code of these people through only their words. So I did experiment. I shuffled and skipped and glided and gambled. I hunched over. I sat up. I tried different voices. My voice went delicate or bitter or assertive or happy or scared. I would like to introduce you to 2 of those heroes. Malka Chismadia was a teenager when the Nazis invaded Hungary. The Nazis put up a work camp directly behind her apartment building, and she made friends with one of the Jewish men there. And here's some words that she said. Anything he asked for, like newspapers or paper and envelopes, we passed through the fence when no one was looking. He gave me his letters, and I put my return address on them so the people could send their replies to me, and then I gave them to him. I didn't realize how dangerous it was until I started hearing stories about how people who were helping the Jews were killed immediately or put in prison. But I continued even after I knew the dangers. Eventually, Malka and her family hid several Jewish men from that camp in farms nearby until the Soviets liberated the area. And the other hero I'll introduce you to is Traian Popovic, who was a Romanian mayor who managed to keep 17,000 Jewish people in his city from being deported to work camps and death camps. He says of that time, callousness was a virtue, charity a debasement. Anyone who tried to protest or reason with the crazed ended up a target for contempt by the public and persecution by the powerful. I was turned into an outcast and suffered many humiliations for 3 years. As far as I'm concerned, the fact that I was strong enough to resist and fight the trend, I don't owe to myself. I owe it to the long lineage of priests from whom I am descended and who taught me to love my fellow humans. I memorized their words. I memorized the words of 4 other heroes, and I took them into my body and memorized the bodies I had made for them. By the time I performed my solo show, I knew I would never be the same. So there I was in that QFC, in front of that refrigerator full of salads. I had imagined that this would be easy. Buy a Caesar salad, buy a Dr. Pepper, not that hard. But it was turning out to be anything but easy. My thoughts were judging the woman for wanting a Caesar salad when I don't like Caesar salad, as if that mattered. My thoughts were also scorning the woman for wanting a Dr. Pepper because soda is so sugary. And they were yelling at me for spending money on a woman who was dressed the way she was dressed. And the more I tried to shout down my thoughts, the stronger they roared up. I felt as if I was losing my image of myself as a moral person right when I was trying to do something moral. What I was actually losing was a whitewashed version of morality. I was losing the illusion that doing a kind act would always be easy. If I could not do something as simply kind as buying a soda and a salad for a woman who was suffering and treat her as human, even in such a small way, then I very much doubted I would ever have the guts to go up against genocidal invaders. I had to choose what to cultivate, my compassion or my doubts. I had found heroes whom I had taken into my body, whom I had walked as and talked as, whose anger and artlessness and suffering and integrity I had examined as I had never examined any heroes before. And as I discovered that day, I could not undo that composting. I could not undo it. I felt them inside me in a way that is not easy to explain, but can perhaps be explained by saying that they had grown within me, like an extra heart or a lung, and I could not rip that organ out without doing harm to myself. I don't know if I can be a hero. Even now, I don't know what my heroes cultivated within themselves that allowed them to stand up to such evil. What I do know is that I bought that Caesar salad, and I bought that Dr. Pepper, and I gave them to the woman I had met. I also know that giving food and money to people on the street has never gotten easier for me. I always feel terribly awkward and judge them and then judge myself for judging them. Sometimes I even talk myself out of it altogether, but I always try again. I'm not a hero yet. I have never defied Nazis or saved the lives of thousands, but I cultivate heroism within me. So in case there ever comes a time when I need to exercise it, I will be able to do it. Thank you.